Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is our NFL playoff preview. We get to talk about everything that's going on in the National Football League. We're going to start with our coaches round tree, but we're also going to talk about the bye week, playoffs. We're going to talk about playoffs. We're going to do it all. But we want to welcome you to the show first and foremost. Logan Landers will be joining us today. He's our producer and engineer, and our co-host and founder is Vincent Turner. Vincent, we'll start with you. Lots going on in the National Football League. You're going to see some coaches' names get brought up. Usually right around the Super Bowl is when the timing is most in effect for when you're going to make those announcements. But in some cases, some of these jobs, you're going to have to fill them right away, or else your top candidate may end up going somewhere else. So first and foremost, let me bring up the jobs that are still available. We know that the New England Patriots have hired Mike Vrabel. That decision was made within 48 hours of the firing of Jared Mayo. So the New England Patriots are, technically speaking, they're off the table. They don't need a head coach. But Dallas, who between our last show and this has let Mike McCarthy go, difference of opinion and direction for the club. Las Vegas is looking for a coach, as are the New York Jets, Chicago Bears, Jacksonville Jaguars, and New Orleans Saints. Vincent, your thoughts, first and foremost, about the coaching carousel in the National Football League.
I was thinking, I want to say much love to you and Logan today. And I was thinking about this. Taylor Sheridan, one of the hottest directors out there, Yellowstone and Landman, right? Maybe I need to go get me a director and just call it the coaches of the NFL. Can you not be excited? The drama, the suspense. Who's going to be the next coach with the Bears? Who's going to be the next coach to the Raiders? Tom Brady involved with the Raiders. Jerry Jones mentioned your former teammate, Hawk. You told us today, just say his name, Dion. I even heard Steve Sarkisian out of Texas. What more can you say, man? The playoffs, Super Bowl, draft season. I'm excited as a fan. Hell, somebody else's name might bring up Shane Beamer from South Carolina. It's exciting right now, man. And I'm very blessed to be talking today about the coaches in the NFL playoffs. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, I have to admit, Vincent Turner may not be on the list for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but you know what? You may be the only one to actually want to take the job. What a tough position you're going to be in there. And also in Chicago. Think about it. You take that job, you're in Chicago, of all places, one of the bedrocks of National Football League folklore. But you got to go in the toughest division in all of football right now. You got to beat the Packers. You got to beat the Vikings. You got to beat the Detroit Lions in order to just keep your job. Not an easy task by any means. But Logan, we went with Vincent's first thoughts about the coaching carousel. What are yours?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams, like you said, that are looking to bring in some fresh blood, new head coach. You mentioned Mike Vrabel being the new coach of the New England Patriots. That was the worst kept secret in the league. For just as many days. He got hired just as quick as Gerard Mayo got fired. So that was pretty much one and done. But for the rest of the teams out there, they're still looking for some head coaches. The Raiders have just been a coaching carousel for really since they moved to Vegas. They had John Gruden, then Rich Biasia, they fired him. Then they got Antonio Pierce, and they fired him. Then they got rid of the GM as well. So like I said, now they've got Brady in there as a minority owner trying to change the culture of the team that's just been, sputtering their wheels. Also in a tough division as well. I mean, if you look at the West, I mean, a lot of these teams made the playoffs. The Chargers made the playoffs. The Broncos made the playoffs. The Chiefs obviously made the playoffs, but where are the Raiders at? They're just waiting at home right now. So that's going to be a tough task. You look at the Chicago Bears, a team who, have the former number one overall pick over there with Caleb Williams, what they can do with that. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence and company, can they turn that around? And of course, we know we've talked about with the Jets, how that's going to shake up. And of course, the number one target, as we've been saying here, the Dallas Cowboys. All the big name coaches are linked to go there. I've seen, of course, primetime Deion Sanders. That's the big star right there. But I've also seen some other names like Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, and a familiar name, Vincent, Kellen Moore. He's been linked with getting some interviews as well. So might see a familiar face back on the sidelines. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Well, guys, it wasn't but what 3-4 years ago that Dan Campbell took the job in Detroit, and instead of saying I'm going to win to the Super Bowl, he says we're going to bite some kneecaps, we're going to knock people down, we're going to do everything that we possibly can to try to win around here, and do so in a manner that's different than the way that they've done it before. The results speak for themselves. They end up beating the Vikings in the last game of the season. What an important game. What perfect timing for that. And a great game there for the Lions. They end up with the bye. You mentioned the Chiefs, Logan. They end up with the bye as well. In the newest format that they have, it seems like that bye week with only one team from each conference getting it and really forcing everybody else to play. That's kind of changed things. Your strategy is a little bit different on how you approach the week. But you mentioned the Chargers, the Broncos. Let's not forget the Commanders. They were the only team as an underdog to actually win and get to advance. So let's look at the playoffs. If you don't mind, we'll get to those other teams in just a moment. But let's begin with the first game on Saturday, and that's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They end up getting to host Houston. Houston looked a little sloppy at the first half, maybe. Well, right before the end of the first half, they started scoring some points. But is there a team that we know less about than the Houston Texans that just keeps winning? They find a way to do it right, and they get to advance. Vincent, we'll start with you. Your thoughts first and foremost about the Kansas City Chiefs getting to host the Houston Texans.
I'm gonna start with Kansas City. What we've been talking about all year, three-peat. They've had a weird season where, could we say they're the ugliest, 16-1 team? But now they're healthy. And the thing that when I look at the Chiefs, we know what they got, star power. Their defenses, to me, has been maybe their calling card this season that we need to give some respect to. Their D coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, Joshua Williams, Trent McDuffie. They'll play real well for Kansas City this year, and I think that's why the Chiefs are in their position. Patrick Mahomes has had somewhat, we want to say, not an MVP season. But one thing that you got to understand, Kansas City is healthy now offensively. And you know DeAndre Hopkins is not going to get close to a ring that he ever is now. Hollywood Brown is healthy. Xavier Worthy, speed. And then you got Trey Smith, one of the best offensive guards in the game, and Travis Kelce. I think the Chiefs know what's out front of them. The first team to win it 3 times in the National Football League to go down in history. They're going to be ready to play on Saturday. As far as the Texans, kudos to DeMarco Ryans, because y'all weren't playing good football at the end of the year. People will question the second year of C.J. Stroud. Y'all came back with a very impressive win over the L.A. Chargers and what your defense did against Justin Herbert. 4 interceptions. Some names were made. The young man out of Georgia, Kamari Lassiter, is playing at a high level. We know what Derek Stingley could do out of LSU. Tim Settle. But when it's all said and done, for me, for the Texans to have a chance in this game, it's the running game. Joe Mixon, Boomer Sooner, who had 106 yards against the Chargers, has got to be a factor on Saturday. Kudos to you, Mr. Scott Case. The Boomer Sooner man, Joe Mixon, has got to play a key role on Saturday. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, one of the things they talk about is getting that week off, a chance to get healthy, a chance to fresh your legs up a little bit and get ready for that grind. You play one less game as well. And what I'm interested in, Logan, is seeing from the get-go, does Kansas City come out and have they learned to ramp it up? At 15-2, it's unbelievable the season. It didn't look like they played with a whole heck of a lot of effort, but they were beating teams left and right. Whatever they're doing, whatever water they're drinking, it's working. But are they going to be able to ramp up, or are they going to go against a Texans team that says, you know what, we've seen that you're not hitting on full cylinders, and we're going to expose and take advantage of that?
You know, I believe they will, but also I'm not super sure, Harper, because we just talked about it in our college show. All the teams that had a week off, they all lost in their game. So I'm a little bit iffy in that regard now. But I think that the coaching of Andy Reid, who's done a phenomenal job since he's taken over the job in Kansas City, he's won championships, has helped coach all these great superstars, and like I said, he's also helped with the draft talent as well, guys who they picked up late in the first round, obviously after winning Super Bowls, but making those guys into, all pro players and guys they picked up in free agency, guys who were kind of tossed aside, and how they've just been able to bring people in and have them commit and have them, play good football. Like you said, Patrick Mahomes isn't going to get any MVP honors this year, but he's still putting up really solid work, as well as he has been. But the key factor in this team, though, and everyone's talked about it, last year the whole narrative was they won it because their defense was so good, and their defense is still great this year. I was looking at one stat, really one player, that I feel needs to get a whole lot more love in terms of just national recognition. That's George Karlaftis, a guy who was drafted in 2022, but has gotten 24 and a half sacks since he's been drafted to KC. I mean, I know, he gets a lot of love out there. He gets a lot of barbecue in the Kansas City area, I'm sure, but it's a guy who's been, workhorse for this team. I think Kansas City will be prepped. They'll be ready and nice and loose in this game here against Houston. I don't think they're going to be uptight or anything like that. But if I'm the Texans, the Texans, it seems like I said, it's been an up and down roller coaster type of year. A lot of guys have been hurt. Obviously, you've lost a good amount of receiving talent with Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs as well. It just came out the other day that Cade Stover is going to be out for this game as well. They got rid of Deontay Johnson. They released him. So I'm with Vincent. It's all about the running game of Joe Mixon. If he can have a good day, they have a chance, because I think C.J. Stroud will show up in the playoffs. I think that he'll have a better game, but they have to find some way to break that wall pretty much that Kansas City has. But Nico Collins had a great day, a great game against LA, had 122 yards and 7 catches. So you kind of hope he can maybe duplicate that. And for the Houston's defense, they got 4 picks off of Justin Herbert, who is very, very good at keeping the ball clean, doesn't throw many interceptions at all. So if they can maybe get to Mahomes, if they can create some pressure, they could have a chance. But I think I'll roll with the champs in this one in Kansas City moving forward.
Logan, is there anybody out there, anyone, that if you are down by 5 points, but you got the ball, you've got 1 minute and 17 seconds on the clock at your 22-yard line, and you've got 1 timeout? Do you want anyone to have that ball? Anyone in the world other than Patrick Mahomes right now?
No, he is lethal, right? We don't see these type of cold-blooded killers often in the league. Last one I can remember was obviously Tom Brady. It felt like if you had half a second on the clock, he could get it out there. But Patrick Mahomes, when it comes to the playoffs, is just a different animal. So he is someone that just buckle in, because it could be a long day if you're a Texans fan. But yeah, I love watching Mahomes in the playoffs. It's a treat.
And Vincent, guess what? With the number 1 seed, they will never have to leave sleeping in their own beds. They'll get the home field advantage again. It's going to be tough for whoever it is, Baltimore or the winner of the Buffalo game there, or Houston, to get that advantage. You're going to have to do it in the cold, and you're going to have to do it against the guy that is proven himself over and over again. I want the ball with 1 minute and 17 seconds left and 5 points down.
Hey, man, when you look at this league, it's greatness. That's what we're all about. If I'm Baltimore or Buffalo, I want to go up against the best. That's what when we live this world and we follow this game, people don't talk about what if, almost, they talk about championships, man. And Patrick Mahomes right now is the best because he's won back-to-back Super Bowls. But I'm looking at any quarterback in the AFC, and I get to go to Kansas City. I love the challenge. I love it. That's what this game is about, this time of the year. That's when we think about this game, and we think about all the champions. We think about the Aikmans. We think about the Montanas. We think about the Stars. We think about Jerry Rice, Emmitt Smith, the 85 Bears. This is what it's about, man. You can't get no more excited. And right now, of course, Patrick Mahomes is the best, but I want to beat the best. It's almost like Tom Brady, baby. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, you speak of excitement, and Kansas City certainly had it over the last 5, 6, 7 years. The build up to where they are right now, and just getting into the playoffs with this young kid that they have, and then turning that into multiple Super Bowl champions and a chance this time to win a three-peat. Unbelievable how good they've had it there. And now let's look at the second game. on Saturday, where you've got a franchise that is still brewing. They've never experienced anything like this before, and they are loving it. Gosh, the home crowd that they had against Minnesota just a couple weeks ago, Detroit was rocking. They proved it earlier in the year when they had the draft show. They had 275,000 people that they were able to count that were there. They're excited. They're thrilled, but so is Washington. I was kind of concerned if I'm Tampa about whether or not this Commanders team was going to come in and upset me, and they certainly did. So let's talk a little bit about the Commanders at 12-5, who don't deserve to be here, but they've earned it, going against a 15-2, another team that's only lost 2 games in the Detroit Lions. And we'll start with you, Logan, first. Give me your initial thoughts about what it's going to be like. It's going to be rocking in Detroit, that's for sure. And I know that getting a ticket for this game was going to be as sparse, and people will be paying far and wide to get there. There were a lot of folks from Washington that ended up going to Tampa. I'm sure there'll be even fewer that are able to get there because there just aren't any tickets available. The Lion fans want them all.
No, and I mean, we saw it last year when the Lions, had finally broke through, got into the playoffs. I mean, God, it felt like there was no room at all in that stadium. I mean, you had fans packed like sardines in there, and it was a great atmosphere. Obviously, it's continued, right? It's a franchise that's been through a ton. And now that they're finally reaping, some of their benefits now after, look, it's been a rough year for them. We talked about it with this team, but half their defenses and half their team, it feels like, is still hurt still. You mentioned guys are getting the extra week, got them cleared up a little bit, but for Detroit, a lot of these guys are still going to be hurt. So I think the home crowd advantage is a massive factor in this matchup. But I mean, you just brought up the scenario though, Harper. If you want someone with minute 17 left on the clock, I don't know if I'm putting him there quite yet, but a guy who could fit that mold is going to be over there in Washington with Jaden Daniels. I mean, in just his rookie year, he's pulled off how many insane just throws, game-winning drives? I mean, he helped Washington get their first playoff win since 2006 the other day. So a guy who was drafted number 2 overall already got you a playoff win. I mean, this has already been a success if you're Washington, and now you're just taunting at this point. You're just showing off with how well you've done. Looking at these 2 games, though, I thought Washington, they've done what they've done all season against Tampa Bay, right? It was a tough game. They fought their way back. That final drive you had where it was a good duo, right? Because it wasn't just Jaden Daniels, but it was also Austin Eckler, the veteran, right? The running back. He got some work in as well, set him up for the game-winning doink field goal. But hey, it don't matter if it's pretty, if it goes right up the middle, if it hits off the crossbar, it went through. And Washington is happy for it. But I think this is going to be a good game. This is going to be a closer game than some people might think. But I'll go with Detroit getting this one. I think Jared Goff is going to have a good performance. They have just a super talented team, probably the best coaching staff as well. But got to show some love to Dan Quinn and the Commanders this year. They're on a magic carpet ride, it feels like. And this is going to be a tremendous game. But I'll go with Detroit getting the slight edge of this one and knocking out the Commanders.
Yeah, 100 years from now, it won't be a doink. It'll be a doink in, or it just went right down the middle, right? The fish stories get bigger, especially as special teams and all that kind of stuff. Vincent, one of the things I noticed about the Commanders, especially on defense, man, they came out to hit. They were hitting hard against Tampa from the very first play. Lattimore and Mike Evans were going at it. I love that rivalry that the two of them have had, but everybody else picked it up. The problem I have with that is there enough time to recover and get yourself ready for another team that had a week off that they can hit on defense too? This is going to be another one of those games that at the end of it, you're going to be counting bruises more than you are points.
I think when you look at Bobby Wagner, it's played a big part in Commanders defense. You're looking at this game, Washington has done a hell of a job this year. Dan Quinn, first year, what more can you say? I don't think it's going to be any problem in them. They know what they got to do. They're going to Motown. It's going to be a high-pressure game. They're really playing, as I always say, with house money. Jaden Daniels, what more can you say, as Logan said? But I want to give kudos to Josh Harris, the owner. So this is a Washington team. I think they're not going to be phased at all. I think it's going to be a good football game. I think Detroit is eventually going to win the game because they got a more talented squad. But I'm really impressed with the Commanders this year. From top to bottom, Dan Quinn did an outstanding job. Cliff Kingsbury, the defense has played at a high level, bringing over Bobby Wagner, the 13-year veteran. Jeremy Chin has played like a Pro Bowler from Carolina. Let's get it on. The Commanders are going to be all right going up to Detroit. And Detroit better be ready to play on Saturday night. Because one thing in this football game that's really surprised me with the Commanders, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, Harp, that you was very impressed with in the Atlanta game, Harp. You said you was very surprised that Jaden Daniels was able to get yards with his legs. That's going to be critical on Saturday night. Back to you, Harp.
Well, get so many yards. I know he can rush. There's no problem with that, man. Now he did get popped. He got hit hard there, and I want to say it was just before the half. He didn't do as much running after that because I think he got back up and he probably had a little bit of an air issue with his lungs. But and then he got that little cut on his cheek. So he learned very quickly. Playoff football, unlike a bowl game in college, it's for real, and someone's going to want to take your lunch money. So be ready for that. But just to look at a couple of the numbers, first and foremost, that game will be at 8:00. It's on Fox, so it's a later start on Saturday. Detroit is a 9.5-point favorite on this. Detroit brings the number one scoring offense in the league right now at 33.2 points per game, and the number 7 defense. They give up 20.1 points per game, where the Commanders are 5th on offense with 28 points, but they're 18th on defense, giving up 23. So the numbers here favor the Lions a lot more. But then when you throw that crowd in and you throw a team that's a little bit fresher, it's going to be even more that the Commanders are going to have to hurdle through and surmount. So good luck to both teams. It should be a fantastic game. And again, that's at 8:00 on Saturday. Now we go over to the Sunday game. First, we have the Rams, who have fires, and they had to move, and they had distractions left and right. They applauded with great joy what the organization, what I'm sure the league had to kick in to make sure that their families, even their dogs and cats, were able to go. Players, coaches, everybody was accommodated so you could play this game and make it feel like a home game. But now they're on the road, and I guarantee you, when they get off that bus, there will be hot dog wrappers and empty beer cans that are going to be thrown at Matthew Stafford and anybody else by the warm, greeting, receptional, peace-loving fans of Philadelphia. Vincent, let's start with you. Going into the city of brotherly love, there's going to be nothing more that they're going to want after a rout that they had in the first week of the playoffs, where everything they tried to do on the ground was absolutely fantastic, and it worked so well.
Let's give kudos to your great city, Harp, LA, for how they handled the situation. The Rams making adjustments to play the playoff game in Arizona in the performance they put on. And I want to say this, Sean McVay, I got to take my hats off to you, man. Les Snead, former assistant GM with the Falcons from the state of Alabama, Auburn graduate. Man, you've done an outstanding job in selecting these players. You think the Rams are going to take a step back when they lost Aaron Donald? 9 sacks last week. Brandon Fisk, Javad Verse, Kobe Young, Cameron Kitchens. This Les Snead drafting, baby. And then Matthew Stafford, go Dogs for you, Logan. The Rams, through all that and the performance they put on Monday night, I don't think they're going to be scared of no rappers. I don't think they're going to be scared of nothing in Philly. You Eagles, you better get ready because Hollywood going to be stepping in Philly this week. And that is a good football team, man, with a very good quarterback. Cameron Williams, Cooper Kupp is going to be healthy. Man, I love the story of the Rams. I'm not going to tell you no lie. It's a story of adversity. It's a story of staying together. Man, how can you not like L.A. under the circumstances they went through? No, I'm sorry, gentlemen. Here on 100 Yards of Football, the Eagles better not be slipping in the darkness. War. Back to you, Harper.
Well, man, you hit on so many different notes. My son Brian has said to me a couple years ago, he goes, who is in line to break Don Shula's record. That's a young enough coach that could be able to do that. Now you throw Belichick in, and we obviously understand he's within a season of being able to do that, but guess he's not coaching right at the moment. But who would be one of the young guys? Is it Shanahan? Is it O'Connell that we saw? Sean McVay is the one who's winning 9, 10, 11 games a year.
Sure.
Granted, if he wants to do it for 30 years, but he's on pace. I thought a couple of years ago when the trade went down for Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford that the Rams were borrowing their championship and that they would have to pay a high price with cap value and with guys that they just aren't going to be able to keep, and they were going to be a one and done. They've proven this year that they are sticking around, and they got a bunch of young guns. I think was it Jim Nantz that did the game? Forgive me for the broadcasters for that specific game. At one point, it was Joe Buck. Excuse me. He goes, not only are the Rams defense playing really well, but they're cheap. He threw the whole thing in right now. He goes, their cap value with all these young guys, but they are balling out, Logan. I'm impressed with the Rams as well. I didn't think that they would start to peak when they did. They had a rough early, they 1-5 at the beginning of the year, but boy, have they got their act together right now.
No,
Hey, excuse me 1 minute before you turn over to Logan. And I don't mean to interrupt in all respect. Hawk, you brought up a good point. The winners coach is Don Shula, right?
Yes.
Guess who's leading the defense? His grandson, Chris. Back to you, Logan. His grandson, Chris.
Got those times right there. No doubt about that. And look, Harper, to talk about that point, that Goff for Stafford trade, I've said that for a couple of years now, that's probably the most balanced trade in NFL history. I think it's worked great for both franchises, turned both of them around. So I know obviously Detroit loves they got Jared Goff who's doing his thing, and the Rams already got their ring out of it, and they're hoping to get another one here. So it would be kind of fitting if both these teams win their matchups and meet again. We'll see. But looking at these teams, I'll talk about Philly first, and they beat Green Bay 22-10. It didn't feel like a dominating performance, though, in that aspect. I thought, obviously, Saquon Barkley did what he does every week, right? He goes out there, runs for 100-plus yards, and just carries the workload. Jalen Hurts, I will say, he's got to step it up this week. He didn't look sharp against Green Bay. 13 of 21. He did have 2 touchdowns, but he was missing throws. He didn't have that instinct, right? He wasn't. It didn't seem like he was completely locked in at times. But I think, look, we've seen good games out of him before. It might have been a rough game. For everyone out there who is upset with A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline, I don't care. I don't care. Hey, look, that's an Amazon bestseller right now. So he's helping out that author.
The author cares.
The author cares a whole lot. But look, Philly's got a good team, right? We know that he's got offensive weapons. It is going to hurt, though. Nakobe Dean, the linebacker, he's not going to be out. He's going to miss the rest of the season, unfortunately, due to a knee injury. So best wishes to him and his recovery. But that is going to be a big factor. But they got some good players, of course. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, of course, Nolan Smith. So, I mean, they've got really solid players on both ends of the ball. But you mentioned it. LA's got that story. They've got that Hollywood ending potentially. They've got pretty much the most of the country behind them. Also, once again, just credit to Arizona for getting all that together in such a quick notice and making everything look flawless. So credit to them for hosting that game the other night. But I did not expect the domination the Rams had over the Vikings. I did not see that coming. Sam Darnold didn't have a good performance, obviously. 25 of 40 on the day, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But like you said, the real story in this game, sacked 9 times. Now, you can look at some of those and say, okay, the O-line let him down. But some of the other ones you could say, man, you could just move up in the pocket and rush it for 4 to 5 yards instead of taking that sack. And it was that indecisiveness, I think, is what hurt the Vikings in the end. Aaron Jones didn't have a great performance, 13 carries for only 48 yards. I mean, you look what he did last year in the playoffs. He trounced that. But, it's going to be a good matchup. Like you said, it's going to be in Philly. We know the home crowd there in Philly, they're a different breed, it feels like, whenever it comes to the playoffs. They pull no punches. They're going to be rooting for their team. So for me, it's going to be a tight game, but I'll go with the slight edge to Philadelphia in this one. If they lose, I think that's going to be a big, big upset. And I thought, look, Philly, everyone picked them to go really far in the playoffs. I think if they get knocked out in the divisional, that's a disappointing end to the season. But I'll go with the Eagles winning this one and flying high.
The thing about the Eagles that really captured my attention in the Green Bay win is they broke the will, in my opinion, of the Packers.
Yeah.
Because you get the ball, you kick it off, whatever, at the beginning of the half, it doesn't matter. You're not getting it back for 8 minutes. They just kept getting first downs, and 3rd and 7, they get 8 or they get 10. And even though he didn't play well, and Logan, I appreciate you saying his numbers weren't great, they blew the Packers away in terms of the final score. Packers were out of it. Nothing worked. That's the thing. I think the Rams can say the same thing, is that we put a defense together where nothing worked offensively for the Vikings, and they were frustrated. And Darnold had that look in his face like, I don't know what to do. I don't have time to throw, and my guys aren't open. What else do you want me to do? You want me to just throw it away every time, or let's punt on first down? That used to be a strategy in football way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You'd punt on first down if you didn't like your field position. It's not coming back.
No.
But those are a couple of things that I have. Vincent, real quick, what else do we have to say about the Rams and the Eagles?
It's going to be a great football game. The Eagles are who they are. They're the favorites. Like you said, look like they broke the wheel of Green Bay. I was very shocked that Jordan Love played so poorly in that game, the quarterback for Green Bay. But I don't think the Rams are going to be intimidated. I think the Eagles better be ready to play on Sunday, because you're taking a team that's went through a lot out there with the fires out there in L.A. They go to Arizona. That defensive performance, we're not going to take away with that. 9 sacks. I know a lot of people want to say Sam Darnold, and I understand what you're saying, Logan. But Mr. Chris Shula, pedigree, bloodlines, he had them Rams ready to play defensively. And I'm going to tell you this, Jalen Hurts, you've been being very inconsistent sometimes this year in throwing the football. That's why you and A.J. Brown ain't really seen eye to eye. Maybe that's why A.J. Brown was reading a book on the sideline. Your offensive line better be ready to protect you on Sunday. And Saquon Barkley, you ain't had your way this year, 2,100 yards? This is a very good Rams defense with some very good young players and a very good D coordinator, Chris Shula. And I didn't know this. I was trying to find out the connection, why he's on the Rams staff. Him and Sean McVay were roommates in Miami, Ohio as players.
There you go.
You know Sean McVay is from the Atlanta area. Shout outs to Marist High School today, here on 100 Yards of Football. Back to you, Mr. LaBelle.
Well, one of the things I think the Rams are going to get stuck with is looking at an offensive line that in Philadelphia is much better than what they faced against the Vikings. And if I'm a Viking general manager right now, I'm drafting a tackle, a guard, and a center just to help my quarterback out, whoever that quarterback may be. People have said that Sam Darnold literally lost millions of dollars with that performance the other day. And I would challenge with, well, so would Tom Brady, and so would Drew Brees, and so would Aaron Rodgers, everybody. The Rams were bigger and faster defensively than what the Vikings could protect their quarterback. So I don't know who J.J. McCarthy would not have fared any better, in my opinion. But what do I know? A game that I think most of the nation will be watching for one reason. If there's folks that love the Chiefs or hate them, the ones that hate the Chiefs are going to be watching the Buffalo game and Baltimore, because one of those is going to end up getting to play if the Chiefs do advance, and we think that they will for obvious reasons. But let's take a look at this fourth and final game. It'll be on CBS at 6:30 on Sunday, where the Baltimore Ravens are a 1-point favorite on the road. That surprises me as much as anything. But their running game is stout. Their passing game is good enough right now to get you to the next level, but they even mentioned it during the broadcast. Their defense is playing so much better. So, Vincent, we'll start with you. Let's take a quick look at what the Buffalo Bills need to do at home with the Mafia, with the weather. How are they going to end up stopping Derrick Henry and Lamar?
Basically, man, it's all about Josh Allen. You look at the Bills, he's done everything you could do as far as bringing the franchise back. We've had him in conversations as far as the MVP. James Cook is running the ball right now. He's got a running game. On the outside, you got to look at Curtis Samuel. It's been a very good addition. Keon Coleman is starting to come on, the rookie from Florida State. To me, it's all about Josh Allen. Big game. This was the game it's made for. You win this game, you advance. And to be honest, Josh Allen, it's his time to get this organization to the Super Bowl. Back in the late 80s and early 90s with Jim Kelly. There's no more to be said. It's this on his shoulders. How he plays, it's how Buffalo's going to go on Sunday night. And as far as the Ravens, the same thing with Lamar Jackson. We talking about you and Mr. Allen MVPs. To me, it's no other way around it. Which quarterback is going to play on Sunday is going to advance. And I'm going to tell you, to me, Buffalo or Baltimore, it's bust if your quarterback don't get you to the Super Bowl and beat the Chiefs. It's time now. Lamar Jackson has had an outstanding season. Derrick Henry has had an outstanding season. Your defense is playing at a high level. You came out in that first quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers and you look like Super Bowl ready. Buffalo, you had an easy win. After that first drive you gave up for a touchdown to Bo Nix in Denver, it wasn't no more after that. You dominated. This is a big football game for two young quarterbacks that's trying to get at that next pinnacle and become in the class of the elite. And the class of the elite is getting to New Orleans and winning the Super Bowl. I don't have to say no more. Whoever plays better on Saturday at the position is going to win the game on Sunday. Back to you, Mr. LaBelle.
Well, let's look at the numbers before we go to Logan. Both teams can score over 30 points a game. The difference between the two is about half a point. Baltimore is third in the league at 30.3. I'm sorry, 30.5. And Buffalo is at 30.9. So, 0.6 of a point. Defensively, I think Baltimore's come out of nowhere, if you don't mind me saying so. When they moved Hamilton to free safety, that was a huge difference maker, in my opinion. But they've gone from the upper teens, 18, 17, now they're ninth. And Buffalo is 11th. So both teams can stop the run and the pass. We hope that the wind and the cold, which will be a factor, how much we'll have to find out, but both these teams are so evenly matched, Logan, that no matter who ends up winning, I think it's going to be tight, and it's going to probably be a last possession type of ball game.
Yeah, I mean, and like you were saying, Vincent, one team is going to move forward with a little bit more hope and high expectations, and the other one, unfortunately, is going to go home with their heads down and a disappointing end. And I mean, these are the two teams that we've talked about for years now that could challenge the Chiefs, that could win a Super Bowl. And here we are once again for how many years now, it seems. So this is going to be a great game here. I mean, you mentioned it, Harper, about how Philadelphia broke the spirit of Green Bay. And both of these teams did that last week. I mean, when you look at Buffalo and Denver, Denver got the early 7-point lead, and then that was it. Then they were shut out for the rest of the ball game. I looked at time of possession. Buffalo held the ball for 41 minutes and 43 seconds compared to just 18 minutes and 17 seconds for Denver, which that is insane. I mean, look, Baltimore with the Ravens did a very well job against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just looked flat. They didn't look great at all. They just came out like they didn't even think it was a playoff game at some points. They controlled that clock as well. 39 minutes, 33 seconds compared to 20 minutes, 27 seconds. So both these teams, if they can get the ball on offense, they can just grind out the clock and grind. And it's going to be a key factor because who can make the big plays? Who can capitalize on the third and longs? Who can get that field goal that it might have went left or right for the other team? It's the small mistakes, I think, for this one. Vincent, you said it's going to be the quarterback battles. To me, it's going to be, can the running back, can James Cook, can he keep up his performance we saw against Denver, against this defense here for Baltimore? Can Derrick Henry, can he keep it rolling like we've seen pretty much all season long against this tough Buffalo defense? So, I mean, it's really just it's going to be a heavyweight knockout fight. It's who's going to fall first. This is a toss-up here. You could go with either team and give 50 reasons why they could win, and then you can talk about the other team and why they would win. I mean, whoever wins this matchup has a great chance in making it all the way to the Super Bowl. And like I said, this is the primetime game here. This is the one that everyone's got circled come January 19th at 6:30. This is big time right here. A lot of money on the line, a lot of high stakes here. And for the two coaches, a lot at stake here to see how far you can go in these playoffs.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. The point spreads are 9.5, 8.5, and 5.5, respectively, for the other games that are taking place. In this one, like I said, Baltimore goes on the road, and they're a 1-point favorite to eke out a road win. Very interesting how this will take place. At the beginning of your comment, I'm thinking Cincinnati. They're the only one that was able to kind of break the code and figure out how do we win in Kansas City and get ourselves to that next level. Well, Baltimore and Buffalo are going to have to figure out their opponent first before they get that opportunity, but should be a fantastic game. Final thoughts, guys, before we end up departing here at the end of this show. So, Logan, let's begin with you.
We have some great teams left in the playoff after the wild card weekend ended. You had the great ending, of course, in Washington and Tampa Bay with that great story, of course, the L.A. and Minnesota, all the storylines going on there, the domination with the Rams. And then you had the teams who were expected to do good, took care of business, right? With the Ravens got their job done. Buffalo did their points. But now we'll see how the teams who are well-rested. How is Detroit going to come out? How is Kansas City going to come out? Are they going to be, on top of their game like we're expecting? Or it's going to be like in college where those teams came out a little bit flat and it wasn't a great showing. I think that obviously things are a lot different in the league as opposed to college, but I think that going into this divisional game, we still have a lot of tough teams. There is no clear-cut favorite in my eyes for who's going to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of great teams here with these 8 we have remaining who could be there at the end. And we're going to see who's just a little bit better this upcoming weekend.
Well, Vincent, you got Kansas City, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Buffalo in that order, hosting Houston, Washington, the LA Rams, and Baltimore in that order. So give us your final thoughts here on this divisional playoff weekend.
Hey, football can get no better. It's the best. I don't have a lot of words, but I'm going to say this. It's like the front man, Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin. New Orleans is a stairway to heaven. Maybe Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson get there. Or maybe Patrick Mahomes wins 3 in a row. Back to you, Mr. Harper LaBelle.
Yeah. Does CJ Stroud join the band? And does he get to go on stage with Jimmy Page? Or we'll figure it all out in the next couple of days. But a great weekend on the way. You've got the College National Championship on Monday evening. And you've got these 2 games on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. That'll be well worth the wait. So well, congratulations to everybody that got to advance and to play and to make it to this level. This is when, as a coach, as a player, as a general manager in the front office, you burn the midnight candle. It dips down deeply. You stay a little bit longer. What's it going to take? How much more film do I need to watch? What do I need to do to make a difference? So we'll get all that taken care of, and we appreciate you tuning in and being a part of the show with us. I'm Harper LaBelle, along with Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, and obviously our host and founder, that's Vincent Turner. We want to say thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. This is our NFL playoff preview. We thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic day, everybody.